Tanya and Nettie. We're on series 2, the realignment. Hey, Tanya, how are you?
I'm good, Nettie. How are you doing?
Oh,
You
yeah,
had
pretty good.
your dental surgery.
I've had dental surgery, which I was told I needed to take 2 days off for without complete rest. And then the rest of the week was low key. And I didn't really listen to that. I just went in going, what's a tooth? Like, seriously?
I'll be
And
totally fine.
I'll be fine. And my God, it has been 5 days, and today is the very first, oh, actually 6 days. Today's the first day I felt like myself. In fact, I was sitting 24 hours earlier waiting for Tanya on this podcast today wrong. So literally, it has totally affected my brain. And it's quite funny because I think it's in line with what we're talking about. Like my diet, I have to have soft food. I'm not allowed to exercise, and I get my energetic downloads through moving. So sitting still is just my everything intuitively about me just disappeared, and I wasn't eating my food. I wasn't doing anything. It was just like my body didn't know what to do at all. It was just totally out of it. So last 2 nights I've eaten, I've started walking again. So I think that's why today I feel like me for the first time in ages. So what about you? What are you up to? Where are you at?
Um, so my best friend Renee has moved in and I'm super excited. The only thing is that like we're best friends, so we spend a lot of time together. We live together and we work together. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
can't
I think
escape
both
each
of us
other.
are, yeah, both of us. And to be honest, there's very little times where, it's like, get out of my face. Like it just doesn't really happen. But I think both of us are just kind of really cognizant and having a few little boundaries about, let's not talk about work at home and that sort of stuff, because we literally spend a ton of time together. So I think we'll just have to make sure that we, still have our own space and all of that. But yeah, I'm super excited. I think it's going to be fun.
And
Going
I
to
think you,
Mexico.
oh
Oh,
yeah, holidays.
yeah, going to Mexico in a week. We had some snow this morning and we're supposed to get some snow tomorrow, but it's like sunny and warm. So I don't really know what's going on here. Spring is coming.
Yay.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
No, I was excited about Mexico. Sorry,
Mm.
I'm still overly excited about Mexico. And I think I started to do the yay before you said it, which was even
Oh,
worse because
oh, gotcha.
I heard it coming before it came out of your mouth. So it was timed wrong. I forgot to do inner pause before I spoke. Is Renee going to Mexico with you or just
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Oh, wow. So you really are full on.
We
Yeah.
do spend a lot of time together. Yeah, yeah. But that's okay. It's okay. It
You're
works.
really good communicators. So I think if like when anything comes up, if anything happens, you're going, okay, I'm feeling like we need to put a boundary on this straight away. You girls will both do that.
Oh, we
So
will. 100% we
yeah.
will.
So I think you'll be fine. And
Yeah, or if it's
yeah.
like, you know what, I know I said I was going to hang out today, but like I just need some time to myself. It'd be like, yeah, cool, no problem. It just wouldn't be an issue. And you're right, we are both very good communicators. So, and very
Yeah.
good at taking responsibility for our stuff, like
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, you can't be really close to somebody and not have the odd little spat. And we've had the odd little spat, and we talk about it and we move on. It's very grown up. So it's
Very grown
lovely,
up of you.
right?
Yeah.
So the other day, well, actually, there's a couple things that I want to bring up first. So Nettie and I were sure that the last podcast that we did was the last podcast, and the next one was going to be a Q&A. So we recorded the Q&A podcast, and there was a few glitches. The internet was going in and out. And then Nettie was like, oh yeah, well, I uploaded it, so you should be able to access it on the drive. And I'm like, I can't see it. I can't see it. I can't see it. Then a couple days later, it showed up and I could see it, and then it disappeared. I couldn't access it anymore. But I could listen to like the first 15 minutes and then it was gone, and share your experience with it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can see it. So I looked at it. It's there. I'm watching the first bit of it. I mean, I don't watch any of them back, so that's Tanya's job because I can't do that. But I started to watch this and I'm like, it's there. I don't know why she. So I said, Tanya, I'll be patient. I'll upload it again for you. So I uploaded it again and it looked like it was going up like every other one. And then I went back on to see whether I could see it and I couldn't open it. So I went back to my original on my computer and it wouldn't do anything. It was just like turning with this screen saying it didn't exist. So I'm like, okay, there was partway through where we had a glitch and you were like, oh, Nettie, you're glitching. We just need to stop for a bit. And we try to run the podcast without stopping, but when it happens like that, obviously you need to stop. So we paused and she said, you're good now. And we kept going. We should have taken a sign then. We should have just said, stop. They're not happy.
We should have, because that's it's fascinating and that they do that, like they actually mess with them if we're going in an order or in a way that they don't want us to. However, the funny part is that Nettie's messaging me. She's like, I told Spirit to leave me alone for 24 hours. She's like, I don't have the energy for this. She's like, they're totally messing with us. And what had happened for me that morning is I was driving, I was teaching a course and I was driving out of town for it. And as I'm driving, Spirit's showing me this whole like geometric 3D star and all of this, and they're giving me all of this information. And I was like, holy smokes. So I said that to Nettie. She's like, that's why. She's like, they're messing with us. So I'll get into explaining the shape in a minute, but then I was like, well, Nettie, I mean, I'm driving out of town on this course. I go, do you think a MERKABA is what I want? That's what the shape is. Like, I'm not looking for a MERKABA. I'm looking for a life partner. Like, do I ever actually get what I want? I'm like, hashtag assholes, hashtag bullshit. Because sometimes
I think like we then did a run of hashtags, didn't we? Of what we were calling Spirit. So there is times, right, where you can just get really pissed off and hashtag each other because we were, I'm not a hashtagger. We were hashtagging, every word you could say. I was pissed off, right? He wasted our time. It was a waste of our time, but it wasn't. I get that now. I go back and I say, everything is a learning, everything is a reason. But at the time, it felt like it was wasting our time.
But that's just like a tiny snippet of sort of what I've been feeling in my experience recently. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, I get it on a spiritual level, but when you're trying to do things on a human level, it's like, F off. Yeah. Like, enough, But anywho, so here we are. So what they showed me is this, basically what you had in the 2-dimensional was what I referred to as the David star. I realize that's not what Spirit said. That's just our sort of human experience of what it is, which is the 2 triangles that are upside down. One's upside down, one's right side up, put together. And then we talked about in one of the podcasts about it kind of expanding and coming back in. So as I'm driving, they're showing me this like 3-dimensional star shape and it's expanding and coming in and expanding and coming in. And I was like, what is that? And then they were relating it to a First Nations medicine wheel and all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, interesting. So when I was sitting there at a break in my course, I was Googling it and I come up with this shape and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Turns out it's called a MERKABA. Do you know what a MERKABA is?
Nope.
Okay, so here's what's really funny is that you and I are both very intuitively connected people, but there's a lot of the woo-woo that I've always been like, whatever, I don't need a geometric shape. And here we have a geometric shape. And so I'm kind of having to eat crow a little bit. I'm gonna lie. So anywho, so this MERKABA, I start looking it up, and what it is it's about the energetic balance between the masculine and the feminine, the as above, so below. It's the balance between like the logical and the intuitive. And so it's this balance of absolutely everything that we've been talking about. Way, yeah, I was like, oh, wow, that's fascinating. And then, of course, obviously, I'm telling her this. I'm like, yeah, we're not done this series.
Yeah.
So what they showed me, because you and I talked about it, is that your star can expand or come back in, sort of depending on what's going on in your life. So my star's been in because I'm having to be very rooted in my home and taking care of my smaller things, that I'm not really expanding out as much into community or into these other things, because I'm where I need to be. I've come back in and I'm focusing on those core points that I need to focus on. So they then related that to a First Nations medicine wheel. Do you know like what that looks like?
No.
So it's I've got it on my I've got a keychain of it. So it's like a round circle and it's broken up into 4 pieces, and it speaks to the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual of the medicine wheel. If you get sort of further into it, I'm trying to pull one up on my phone here. If you get further into it, it speaks to air, water, food. The emotional is acceptance, understanding, love. The intellectual is concepts, ideas, thoughts, habits, and spiritual is a sense of connectedness with the Great Spirit. There was other ones, and honestly, I'm going to have to go deeper into it, but it actually showed, I wonder if I can pull it up here because I wanted to just kind of go from memory. It showed the different ages of on
Oh,
the,
wow. Like I got the
yeah,
first download. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. You know what I'm loving about this is that food is in that, because when I saw diet, and which we did explain on our last video that you'll never see because we can't recall, but I think there's a little bit misunderstanding of what diet is. And the diet one is actually just food as a source as well. So it's like not just like, it's not saying, as Tanya pointed out in the one you'll never see, it's not saying be vegan, it's not saying you must eat meat, it's not saying you can't eat blue cheese. It is saying that you need to be food needs to be more than just a diet. And we did explain that. If we went back and looked at the diet one, it's the preparation, it's the thought, it's eating together, it's making food together, it's the chemicals we're putting on our food, it's seasonal eating, it's all those things that that relate to food, and that is diet, as they call it on my triangle. So it's interesting because when I speak to friends about it, they're going, oh, it's really funny that diet is there. Like, diet's not one that I would have put there. And I'm like, hey, I'm only telling you what I get, but it makes sense to me. I understand it now that it's there. But I love that First Nations thing that you brought back, that you mentioned just then, has actually food as one of their key
Yeah.
components.
So I'll just go over this very, very quickly. One, so it's cut into 4 sections. The wolf is spiritual and it speaks to the age of elders. White people, winter, white and north. The other one is eagle, physical, and it's about birth. So it's that age group.
Yeah.
Spring, seed, sun, warmth, light yellow, east. And then there's buffalo. It speaks to love, mental, teenagers, summer, red, south. And the green is grizzly bear, emotional, young adults, black people, fall, autumn, blue, west. So of course I'm literally just Googling this. Like I'll sit down and get more information from Spirit about how they want it to relate. But there was this distinct connection between sort of what we're talking about and this. And I have a friend who's an elder, and I was asking her about the medicine wheel, and she said, Tanya, in the most simplest, she said, you can get very complex in the Indigenous medicine wheel, but she said the absolute best way I can explain it to you is that at its core, you've got your family and your health, and that sometimes you have to go into that center and take care of that space. But when you're well, your family's well, things like that, you expand back out into community and do all of these other things. But if something within your home unit and your sort of core important people and community in your life, and sorry, not community, like your internal, what do I call it? I'm just going to say family, like your sort of core people, you come back in and you take care of those core needs. which
Yeah,
I thought
love it.
was super fascinating.
Can you please put that up on Facebook, on our Facebook? Because I would love to see that. And once you've done a little bit of research, add that to there because, yeah. And what I'm going to do for my homework is go and see what the Australian Indigenous core kind of, whether they have anything like this. I'm not even
Yeah.
quite sure. We don't celebrate Indigenous people well enough in our country, unfortunately. We don't teach it very often. So, but there is some, we've got the Biripi people here and I have some contacts in that. So I might go back and see whether they have anything similar. It'd be interesting. I think at the core, I think everyone will fundamentally have the same sort of, core values back to that. So yeah, I'm excited.
And I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And so this MERKABA, you know what? I will post a piece on the MERKABA, but if you want to talk a bit, I'll try and pull one up here and we can discuss it.
While you do that, I'm just, it's interesting because last podcast at number 6 that actually you would have seen if you're watching these in order, we talked about Tanya sort of going down in her star, why she healed and grieved. And at the same time, the spirit was pushing me out, losing control. So I decided that I would set all these things up. And I went from controlling the uncontrollable, I suppose. And I put like, okay, I'm going to do something in diet. I'm going to do something in thing. I'm going to do that. I started a new energy circle with people in community, sent a message out. They responded straight away. It was like, oh, I'm going to make sure that I get my other sisters involved in ordering food from our local So Hip kind of thing. And I was like, I had everything sorted out. And then the next day I went to the dentist and I had this thing and it knocked me straight down and everything changed. And I felt that the only way to survive was to shrink my star.
Yes.
So it was showing that like one day you could be having to expand and the next day spirit's like, no, you've gone way too far in the other direction and you need to pull back in. And so I do believe that was not a coincidence, and that the lesson for me and lesson for me to share is that we're constantly doing this. It's not like, okay, I was on an expansion run for the next 3 months and Tanya's on a pull down for the next 3 months. It's like, could be tomorrow, could be then you're back out and then you think it's a constantly evolving, energy doesn't just go, oh, that's perfect. And that sort of thing.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
what is balance changes.
Yeah.
So it's not like we can, carry on the same path all the time and be like, no, this is what my balance looks like. But your balance changes based on what's happening in your life.
Yeah. And
what I'm hearing,
what I'm hearing from Spirit now is if we would use the word even if it was meant to be like something that was permanent, but it's not, it's balance. And the whole point of balance is that you're constantly actually just adding and subtracting and, you're aligning yourself like that. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So the one that I just brought up very quickly, so it shows the MERKABA and it says it combines opposing energies into perfect balance. Masculine and feminine, earth and cosmos. But here's the thing, whether your star is big, which is where it goes to community and all of those other things, or your star is small, it doesn't mean
By the way, my husband and my dog just went past.
I could see his back trotting by, trying to be off the camera.
He's just got back from fishing and he's got a bucket full of fish and he's like, I've got to get to the kitchen. I'm like, keeping it real wonderful. With Tanya and Nettie. Sorry, keep going.
No problem. So even if the star is expanded out and you're in community and you're teaching or you're being all of these things, but then all of a sudden something in your life brings your star back in smaller, that does not mean that your masculine and your feminine or your earth and cosmos or whatever are out of balance. Because you and I spoke a lot about you being aligned and me being aligned, but what we're doing is different. So my diet's off. I'm grieving, I'm going through a tough time, but that doesn't mean I'm not aligned.
Correct.
Because so
Yeah,
there's a difference, in my opinion, right?
absolutely. No, you're
And the way
100%.
they show it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So then it says this union results in an activation of light and protection around your body that can transport your consciousness to higher dimensions. Reminds us of the potential power we yield when we find balance and raise our vibration. So I just want to bring a little bit of keeping it real back to that, because I've listened to other spiritual teachers literally speaking exactly of this, and you and I have talked about it numerous times about having that balance, combining the two energies, and what you call intuitive and physical, and what I would call like the masculine and feminine. It's all about polarities and bringing them into balance. But there's like these like MERKABA meditations where you would envision yourself with this MERKABA around you, and it's supposed to be like a chariot of light that moves you through life. And I'm just going to call bullshit. I'm sorry. I believe in energy work. I believe in all of those things, but I can't just stick a MERKABA on me and walk out the door and expect myself to be aligned. That's where all of those other things come into play, right? So it's like I can't lay on a mat and go and expect myself to be enlightened. You got to do the hard work. You got to lay on your couch for 2 months and intermittently cry and eat blue cheese, and like this is the reality of raising your vibration. Because if I'm just putting this, visualizing this MERKABA around me, and I'm going about my life and then wondering why everything's shit, well, it's shit because I'm not actually looking at or going through the emotional process that I'm supposed to be going through, or going through the physical process that I'm supposed to be going through. So I just want to bring it into reality, in a sense that this isn't just an energetic. When we do the physical work of organizing our lives and growing our vegetables and eating seasonally and having a proper diet, and dealing with our traumas, dealing with the stuff that comes up for us, dealing with our pain and our grief, letting our emotions happen, that's when we get into perfect alignment. When we take all of those sides of ourselves, we combine it, and we don't judge it, we accept it.
Yeah.
Sort of as like accepting all aspects of yourself and working with them together. So it is not just an energetics or a visualization. That's not how it works.
No.
If that
And
worked, I assure you I would have done it a long time ago.
you look what happened to me during the week when I couldn't move, when I was told to stay still and not do anything my physical. Like I had plenty of mental time and I could bring energies in and I can do that, but I was so out of balance because I wasn't getting that physical kind of reaction. And I had to really start going, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? Like I can't just sit in meditation and go, okay, I'm going to be all right. Yes, I can physically get rid of the pain in meditation, but then as soon as I start doing something, it comes back. It's like,
if you're no longer in that energetic space.
Yeah. So yes, I fully understand that you can move energy and that you can get rid of pain. I've done it for people before and it's stayed as well, but that depends on what the trauma and what those things behind it actually are to see whether it will come back. But I think you're right. It's like a balance of all the different things. And it's a continual line of reassessing and where am I at now? Okay, I'm expanding, no, I'm contracting. And before we came on, I got this message, and I can see where this is coming in with what you're talking about. And what they were also telling me to remind people is not to try so hard to get spiritually aligned, because
that's exactly kind of what I'm trying to say is,
yeah,
like you don't.
They said it's a little bit like cleaning the house, was the way they showed me. And if you walk into a house and the house is just an absolute mess and you're like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean this out and I'm going to, so you spend all your time cleaning and you're doing windows and you're vacuuming, you are exhausted. You spend the next 3 days on the couch feeling like crap. You can't even enjoy the space because you're so exhausted and you don't even want to look at anything because it just reminds you of 3 days of cleaning. And what they're saying is if you do one room at a time, like you do a little bit of that and then you go off and do your stuff and then you come back, eventually you'll get like a month down the track and you look around and you go, oh God, my house is really clean. I feel really good. I've had a good month. I've caught up with friends. I've still done everything. And now all I've got to do is go back and start, maintaining and just doing a little bit more of this bit at a time. So that was this kind of analogy. And I can really see that sort of what you're saying in this is that.
And on
Sorry.
that same analogy, you can't go in and see this really messy house and go into meditation and expect it to get cleaned.
You can turn the lights down.
Right? And maybe you can't see it as well.
But it's still there.
You can shove it all into closets and into cupboards, right? But it's still there.
Yeah. And what they finished on for me with that too is they said, you know what you're aiming for, what kind of true alignment is when you're actually seamless, when it becomes to the point that you don't know you're being guided or you don't know you're being which
You
part
don't
of
know
my
where
mind
your,
is using in your thing.
you
Is it
don't
my
know where
masculine?
your
Is it my
star
feminine?
is.
Yeah, that's right. And then you'll get knocked out and you'll go, oh, hang on, I better reassess. Where am I? Where is my star? What do I need? That sort of stuff. But you will kind of get to the point. And I spoke to a girlfriend on the thing today, and her ancestors come through a lot, and she's been feeling all this heaviness. And she's like, I feel like they're trying to talk to me, which they are. And they come in groups in her case, because energetically, that's how they need to reach her. She can't sort of see them on their own, but they did say that she is like seamlessly kind of having those guides, and she listens to them, and she does that through her life, but she's kind of waiting for an aha moment or a angel appearing with wings to verify that she is actually spiritually connected and balanced. Whereas she's actually doing it so well, and you look at the last couple of years of her life, and I admire where she's gone and what she's done, and you can see her growth. Everyone around her can see that growth, and you sort of think, don't wait for that aha moment. Don't wait for those things, because if you actually get a massive aha moment or a massive download or a massive thing, I mean, you can feel sick and shit for a week or two, right? We're good examples of that.
Yeah, and that's the reality. Like both you and I have had this like muscles contracting and releasing and contracting and releasing, and just last night again I had one of those crappy sleeps where I had this spirit itchies all over, and I was like, oh my god, you guys, just get it over with. Like, I got to get up in the morning. And yeah, it's funny because as much as I feel honored that we're getting all of this information and we're having such a beautiful experience together, and to be able to teach it to others, it's a bit of a piss off sometimes. Like, I was so sore the other day from this muscle thing, and actually I made a doctor's appointment because I wanted to talk about switching my meds, because I just intuitively, spirit was kind of like, yeah, it's not vibing with the chemistry of your body right now. You need to switch to a different one. For ADHD meds, for those that are just tuning in. And when I was telling him, and I prior to the appointment, I'm like, how do I explain this to him in a very logical way, instead of being like, well, spirit said this, and then he'd be like, okay, antipsychotics coming up. And I was like, I'm really dehydrated. I'm having these like muscle pains, and my muscles are kind of like clenching, and lots of jaw clenching, which is something I've always done, but it's just on a different level right now. And the reason that I feel it's a bit of a spiritual experience is because you've had the same thing.
Yeah.
Regardless, I do need to change my meds. But as I'm telling him this, he's like, oh, well, it's been a while since we've done a full physical. Like, I think that we should do a full blood panel and all of these things. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Joy.
He's like, well, so I'm like, well, I have Parkinson's, I have ALS. I don't know. I'm dying of something now.
Well, I had MS about 20 times in my life.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
They just kept saying, that's what you've got. Let's do more bloods for it. We're pretty sure you've got it. And I'd be like, okay. Last 10 times they said no, but okay. And then it come back, no, you haven't got that. I'm just like, okay. Yeah. So
anyway, I thought it was kind of funny, but one thing that they showed me was that when you okay, so it's gonna be a bit of an explanation. I just got to write some notes. When you come into this, I'm gonna call it, I don't know, MERKABA energy or this alignment, that is when you're perfectly balanced to actually then receive divine union with another person. That doesn't mean that we can't have life partners. That doesn't mean that we can't have wonderful, wonderful people in our lives. But this, they kind of made it, and this is where I feel like we're getting airy fairy, because I used to really believe in this sort of soulmate thing, and I don't know that I do as much anymore. But that is what they said, is that that's when you're going to meet like your match, is when you've got this balanced within yourself. Then you can meet somebody sort of on a higher spiritual level.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make that sound like that's the goal for absolutely everybody. Like, oh, look, I'm in alignment, now I have to leave my husband or whatever. That's not what they're saying. And I also feel a bit self-conscious saying it, because we all know that, you know, I'm definitely looking for my soulmate, right? But what they said too is that previously traditional relationships where the man and the woman, the woman would be the feminine and the man would be the masculine, and they would come into union to complete what we are now, as we are growing, completing within ourselves. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with a traditional relationship. It doesn't mean that it has to be male and female, because it truly is, you know, a masculine and a feminine energy. But my point is that they spoke about people coming together before. One would be masculine, one would be feminine, and it doesn't have to be heterosexual. This can be bisexual, this can be whatever. And that union completed the alignment. Now, as we've evolved, we are becoming those within ourselves, and then we will meet somebody who has that same balance within themselves. And that is what they're referring to as divine union.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
You're just
Sorry.
trying to wrap your head around it.
I've got a lot coming in, and I can feel my energy going. So I'm trying.
Okay, go.
I was trying to hold it all down and
I get it.
and listen at the same time, and I needed to get up and do a run. Yeah,
Can I ask a quick question before you go into this?
Yeah.
Because we've talked a lot about male and female, and we've talked a lot just about like almost like a heterosexual type relationship, because we are talking about masculine and feminine energies. I'm curious what you're getting from spirit in relation to other sexual orientations.
You're asking the question that spirit is answering.
Oh, fantastic. So, because we are an all-inclusive podcast. Yeah. That's right.
And I am dripping, by the way. So spirit was really impatient with that. So I'm gonna try and calmly say a lot of information in a logical way. And I was told by one of my girlfriends that when I get too much information, I go and that. And she's like,
and you don't finish your sentence.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and finish the sentence in what they want me to say. So one of the reasons that they talk about physical and intuitive energy rather than masculine and feminine energy is because of the association that humans have of masculine and feminine being male and female.
Gender.
In gender. And so our society has never, it's not that it is now, it has never been a gender orientated society. So we've always had people who identify in different ways, and we've also always had people who are attracted different ways. Our society somewhere decided that that was not okay, and that we needed to go to heterosexual. This is not all cultures, this is some cultures. So the reason that they talk about physical and intuitive is so that we can lose that masculine. And so within two partners, there may be someone who is more physical and someone is more intuitive. And so say, for instance, a teenage boy comes up and is a teenage boy or girl, teenage, they're saying, then the energy needs to be more of a physical energy to relate to that person. And therefore, it doesn't matter if the male or female comes in, that person has to have the physical connection to actually connect with them more. And in traditional male-female couple, that often becomes the male that does that, but not all the time. And then the female will be the one that is doing the risk analysis, the things, you know, I don't know if you should be kicking that ball near the window because you'll break the window. I'm worried about the step. Like, they start to actually use their intuitiveness to kind of risk analysis. And the husband has now got the child hanging over the edge of the cliff going, they'll be fine, it's not that far down, you know, like the wife's driving down with something to try and catch the child, you know, like it's they're showing me a few different scenes of how that works. So that doesn't have to be a female and a male. It can be two females. It can be someone who identifies as neither male or female. It's the physical and the intuitive balance. And that's why they have been so they're saying the word instructional. They've been so instructional about me using the physical and the intuitive rather than masculine and feminine. And this happened way before they started to talk about this, which is quite interesting. I think back in our original series, when you mentioned female, masculine and feminine, I was getting
because I was relating it to a language that I knew, which was masculine and feminine energies, but it makes perfect sense that people put gender onto that. So I will try very hard to go with physical and intuitive and change my language, because I don't want, because when spirit does actually talk to me about it, they do say physical and intuitive. It's just my language that keeps going back. So I will work on that 100%.
And your language is in line with most of what spiritual language is. So I've heard that a lot. Most of the teachers that I have speak about that a lot. So it's quite interesting that they've come back with very negative towards that. And I remember the first time that you mentioned it, and I was just like, I could feel this energy in my body building up that they were saying, you need to change this language. And I'm like, I'm going to tell her not to do this. And I think I just mentioned that I almost interpreted what spirit was saying by masculine and feminine, so people understood. But I hadn't had this download then, so I had no idea that they were going to call it physical and intuitive and how it goes. The other thing that they want me to mention, which is an experience that I had, which is a little bit embarrassing, but I'm going to go with it anyway because they're telling me that uncomfortable's the new me. So I have
emotions. Yay.
Yeah. I have a really good relationship with my husband, which we've mentioned before, and we met at 17, and we are physically and intuitively very aligned. And so when you talk about that relationship, and we are there, sorry. And I think we always will be. We were meant to find each other. It's not our first time together. That's the way I see it. But the interesting part about it is I would see friends' relationships who were upset within their own relationship, and I would want them to have what I had. And I was looking out the window going, oh, poor things, they don't have my happy relationship. I want to see what I can do to give them that relationship. And what I learned from the spirit was that was a very self-centered, selfish, almost ladder, not circle, way of thinking, and that not everyone gets their soul relationship through one person. Well, nobody does, they're saying, but through their core soul through one person, and that some will actually find their growth through several because they're going to grow really fast. And the other soul person, there is a good chance that they're not going to grow in that speed. So you'll come in and out of relationships because you will be going in your circle of energy in a lot faster. And that person's growth isn't actually going to keep up with that. But also, you don't have to get that relationship from the partner that you live with. So from your breeding partner is what they're telling me again. So some people will get a breeding partner it'll work well and they will live their life together, but that person is not the one that they're going to match on a balanced level. So they will have a girlfriend, or they will meet people through their life. They might have, in your case, it might at this stage be Renee. You and Renee are just clicking on this soul level where your growth and will be through that. Whether your partner was still in the picture or not, that growth will go. And you also get a lot of spiritual growth, they're saying, through your children. So you will find every now and then you will have a child that you have a connection with that is almost better than a relationship, like than you could ever get with a partner. And so throughout your life, you are actually meant to match with each other to grow in a certain way, and they'll get to a point where they become an adult in your conversation. Now, I see that with my son. I learn and grow every day from my interactions with my son. Yet I have such a good interaction with my husband as well. So there's multiple people, and now I've got some really key girlfriends, and then an amazing relationship with Tanya as well, that stretches me on another level. So what their point is, as I'm dripping throughout my whole body, and I need to stop channeling some of what they're saying, is that don't always look for your sexual partner to be the person that you're going to soul grow with. And it's up to you to decide if you want to keep that relationship, and you may get a certain amount from that relationship that is enough. And then you look for what is missing in that balance with someone else. And then therefore that other person, or those people and that person, can actually stay on your balance, on the opposite balance to you. And you don't have to remove them to get it. You just have to stop asking for things that they can't deliver. So that's where your choice becomes. Am I going to have this and find something from someone else? Now, in a lot of cases, they are saying that it's a good idea to remove someone from your thing if you need so many other people to help balance you, or if you're putting up with things that are not letting you grow, and that you need to find the truth within yourself to get that. I'm going to stop this now because I'm literally like I'm 150 degrees in temperature.
No problem. So what I'm hearing, and I'm not opposed to the idea, it's not my jam, but like, are you talking sort of like polyamory where you have okay,
So
okay, I just wanted to make sure, so just let I can wrap it up for you so you can stop sweating. So I would have Renee and I don't have a sexual relationship. We're just best friends and we get along famously. And we have love for each other, but we don't have that romantic love and commitment to each other, right? Like, she can leave, she can, like, there's none of that sort of commitment with us. But her and I can live together. Like, she'll be home probably in about 20 minutes, and I've already got dinner in the oven. So she lives in the basement, and I'll be like, hey, Renee, come on up, you can grab some dinner, because then I've got to go do this other thing at 7 o'clock and da. But then I'm going to get a lot from her, but then I may also end up with an actual partner.
Yes.
But so then I get a lot of my needs met from Renee. I get a lot of my needs met from my partner, and I get a lot of my needs met from you.
Yeah. Yes.
In your case, though.
Yes. In your case, they're calling it like a pause in the soulmate relationship, because you're going to end up with a soulmate that actually meets all those needs. That's your destiny. But
and that's my
that's
goal.
That's why it's not jamming with you, because it's like okay, but like, I think you could feel it within you that person is going to be there for you in the near future. So, but not everyone.
I could 100%, because when you started talking about it and it sort of started sounding like polyamory, I was getting this like coming up in me. And it's not because I judge it. I don't. But if you're with somebody that is a piece of crap and is not meeting your needs, isn't making you feel loved, isn't making you feel cared for, isn't making you a priority, isn't making you feel beautiful, isn't giving you those things, don't hold on to this person and go get those needs met in 2 other people. That's not
what they're saying.
This person who is not meeting those needs is somebody that you get rid of and you hold up your self-worth.
Yeah. What they are saying is that don't underestimate the value of community. So you will get, it's just not one person that is going to meet all of your needs of growth, right?
Of
and
course,
match you in that way.
that's just, yeah.
But they're saying for some people, like a huge weighting will be on their relationship partner, their marriage partner, whether it's marriage or not marriage, right? But they're saying for some people, they're thinking, oh, everything seems fine, we're getting along well, we actually are really good housemates, we're having sex, it's okay, but I'm not getting my spiritual needs met by her. But then you go and meet with your girlfriend once a week and you speak on the spiritual level and you feel good and you're like, oh, why aren't I getting this from my husband? Because Nettie's getting that from her husband. That what they're saying is that is not like the role that both those people in life, that one you're not meant to marry, you're not meant to have sex with, you're not meant to, they're married, they've got their kids, everything's fine. And a relationship doesn't have to be a sexual one. So when they're saying relationship, so what they're saying is don't ditch your partner necessarily because they're not meeting all your needs, unless they're actually holding you back and or treating you badly, or there's a lot of reasons, right? So that what I looked at, what I was doing was wrong, was I was trying to give them what I saw as the perfect relationship, but it's only one model. And
Right.
they're saying that there's many different models. You may get, like I'm from a really big family, and I definitely got different things from my brothers and sisters and from my mum and dad within that family. And I still do. If my little sister, I'll ring her for certain things and I get a lot of comfort out of that. And my eldest sister came over yesterday and had a cup of tea when I was feeling crappy with my tooth, and she just gave me that energy back. So, and then my other sisters, like on the thing saying, hey, we'll do this, I'll come over for your birthday, blah, 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 blah. Like all those people are meeting different needs within your sphere.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I am not ever of the idea that my partner has to meet every single possible need that I have. In fact, a lot of those I can meet myself. But
Yeah.
it's insane to me to think of, being in this relationship, but then going out and getting your needs met somewhere else because this person that you're living with isn't performing. Is underperforming.
I think what they're saying is that they're performing on like, you got to decide what you want from them. And I was thinking that my girlfriends would want everything that I had, but they don't. They don't need that. They would be smothered if they lived our lives. Like, we work together, we eat together, we sleep together, we think together, like we design together. Our lives are so integrated. A holiday for us isn't getting away from each other, it's being together. And for a lot of people that is smothering. And
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, but it also isn't everyone's jam. And, so that's what Spirit was sort of saying to me, that they want to go away with their girlfriends and have a holiday because that meets one of their needs that they're not wanting from their partner. It's not that they're not getting it. They don't want that from there. That he's bringing in so much physical energy, which they love, and they get that. And they want to get it from their girlfriends. They're sitting and talking and cups of teas and sitting in pools for hours. Like, they want that. And so what the lesson for me was that don't put your relationship up as the picture perfect and say, oh, anyone who's not got my relationship is not, they don't want my relationship. I mean, some do, but some don't, right? And I learn a big kick in the face of, like, come on, who do you think you are? Like, that there is, it's not everyone's thing.
That you're the relationship ideal.
Yeah. And I am for me. I'm living my relationship ideal.
100% you are for you. But I think the point is in the MERKABA and the star and all of it. And the what I was using was masculine and feminine, and they did touch on traditional relationships and that type of stuff. Spirit in no way, shape, or form in any of this is saying that there's one size fits all. They're saying do whatever works for you. If you want to be 45 and go live with 80 of your girlfriends and then you leave, occasionally and go have sex with a designated man or 3 designated men, and that truly fills your soul, do it. If you want to be in a traditional relationship, do it. But there's no one size fits all. Whatever works for you, do it.
Yeah. Look in the
Whatever makes you
mirror.
happy.
Look in the mirror and work out what is your, what is my goal? Like what makes me happy? What matches my physical and my intuitiveness in a balance that I'm really happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you get joy out of, for sure.
The only thing that I want to say is that I think that there's some levels of how do I say this? So if we go back sort of to the idea of staying with a partner because I'm too afraid to leave, and this person is not meeting barely any of my needs, but I don't want to have to go through that pain of walking away. And I'm just using this as an example. So then I have other relationships outside of that relationship. That is not getting your needs met. That is bypassing your healing.
Yeah. And 100%. Unfortunately, your journey's going to go slower if you're doing that. Like, you know, there's hard choices.
You're refusing to put yourself through that emotional experience of the emotions that you're avoiding. So you're basically settling for something and saying that that's who you are and what you want, but really you're avoiding growth and change. Do you know what I mean? And I hope I'm explaining the difference properly, because if the core relationship isn't about a fear of leaving or having to go through that pain, then that may be a different story. I'm just trying to say, don't use relationship structures to stunt your growth. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Am I showing the difference?
No, 100%. And I think what we said last week that got lost in space was a message from Spirit, which was that change is hard, but change is so rewarding. And it's like the fast path. You know, we've talked in the past about the slow path to the top. You're going to get there either way, or you go the fast path. And, you know, my learnings over time is, if you know that down at your core that leaving that person is going to actually help your growth, then get your strength, like get your shit together, you know. And I watch people who get their shit together. They go, I'm not ready for this now. I know this. And they spend the next year really working and getting themselves to where they are.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And then they go, okay, yes, I identified this 2 years ago, but now I put a plan in. First year I did nothing, and I could see that a year later I was like, oh shit, I'm in the same boat. So then they put a plan in place to get themselves strength. They tried to work it out, didn't work, was never going to change, and then they took it. And in some ways I think that's what you did. You know, you didn't just jump out of ship when you were like, you know, you got the strength, you got the timing. I mean, Spirit kind of interfered a little bit with you because we needed it for the podcast. They were ready for a download. You didn't know that.
It was interesting because we had a previous conversation, and it was like, look, this relationship very well may not work, but before we blow our lives up, let's get you some help. Let's get you some dealing with the things that are happening for you. And that doesn't mean that I don't get help. I see a psychologist. I do all the things that I'm supposed to be doing as well. And it was like, okay, I'm like, and at the end of the day, you don't want the relationship, cool, we'll split in a kind and loving way. But prior to the actual day of the breakup, we'd had an argument, and he was honestly like such a dick that it was awful. I was like, I cannot even believe the things that you're saying or your perspective right now. So waited a couple of days, went to sit down to talk about it. When I went to sit down with him, he was completely shut down. He was just like, I don't want this. I was like, okay, leave.
Yeah.
Like, just go.
You were ready.
And they're
like,
100%, just done. Okay, good, go. And he's still trying to argue with me. And I'm like, just go.
No. Yeah.
Like, I was just there. I was just there. And, you know, I was talking to my psychologist about this. I said, you know, like after the relationship ended, we still talked, and there was a little bit of a like kind of weaning off, because I mean, we had combined lives together. There were some things that we had to work through and see the kids and all of those things. But when the reality of it too for me is that I went home to Saskatchewan because my father's ill and he's dying. He's not far from going. And I was like, I honestly needed a little bit of relief. Everything was very hard. There was so much happening all at once that I was like, I needed to stay just a wee bit connected.
Yeah.
So that I could feel some emotional relief until I was fully ready. So I did it almost in like little chunks. And that's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The pain was immense.
It's a little bit like
including the father piece, and it was hard.
It was like cleaning the house, like they're not asking you to clean the house in one big go. You did a big bulk in one, and then you had to go and clean the other little bits. Like it's as your body can get it. Otherwise, you feel exhausted, overwhelmed, like all those things.
Your nervous system's going to be completely out of whack.
Yeah. So you do it in a way that your body can actually handle it, rather than
exactly.
Anyway, let's see if you're listening to this podcast. Spirit said this was okay. If you're not listening to this podcast, once again, Spirit has stuffed us up. But I'm hoping that Spirit's happy with this, because I'm not going to sweat like that and turn into 150 degrees for no reason.
Right? I think they're happy with it. I think we had no glitches. So thank you everybody very much for listening. Thank you for rolling with the punches with us as Spirit tells us what we're going to do, and then we ignore them, and then we try to make our own decisions, and then they're like, no, this is how it's going to go. So thanks for being on the ride with us. Please like and subscribe, and it was lovely to see you again, Nettie.
Same with you. See you, everyone.